Hello all, this is Maro, welcome to my channel. So today I wanted to try to do something different. I've spent a fair amount of time looking at some of the stats that are, within this game. And as you all know, this game is full of numbers, full of stats. Just trying to maybe better understand of how some things work and what does that mean for the ships I play. So I wanted to organize some of this information and share it with you guys and see if maybe it's also helpful to you as well. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and with that, let's get into it. Let's start with guns. Gearing has 6 127mm Mark 38 guns in 3 2-gun turrets, firing Mark 32 high explosive shells with 1800 max damage. High explosive HE. The guns fire one shell every 3 seconds, generating a theoretical HE damage per minute, DPM. So this is the base without any upgrades of 216,000. So where does that put Gearing? Clearly in the lead within the US destroyer tech tree. Tier 9 destroyers, Fletcher and Black, they follow with an HE DPM of 164,000. This means that Gearing has a 32% higher DPM than Tier 9. Interestingly enough, Kidd, Benson, both Kidd and Benson at Tier 8, and even Mayhem at Tier 7 have the same 164,000 HE DPM. They do use the same guns, same shells, so perhaps it shouldn't have been a big surprise, but I would have expected there'd be some differentiation between the tiers. So effectively here you got 7, 8, and 9, base HE, same. Anyway, where the Tier 8 and Tier 7 destroyers fall behind Fletcher and Black is they don't have access to the 6th upgrade slot, can't equip main battery mod 3, and they can't get the 12% reload boost. So then Fletcher and Black come up to 207,000 almost, so 14% higher than their brethren or sister ships, Tier 8 and Tier 7. Gearing still takes the top mark, max HE DPM of close to 273,000, 30+% higher than Tier 9 US destroyers. In case of AP shells, on the US side, AP DPM values are 16% higher. AP does 2,100, HE does 1,800, but the relationship between the ship's firepower remains the same. So Gearing's 216,000 base HE DPM output, without any upgrades or skills, is the best in the US destroyer line. However, when we look at the other Tier 10 destroyers, they bring even higher rates of fire to the table. So Marceau leads the pack with almost 254,000, followed by Smoland and Harugumo, 247,000, 240,000 for Harugumo. And then you have Daring and Holland, which are behind Gearing at 213,000 and 210,000. And then when you go all the way to the bottom, you find Z52 and Shimakaze at around 135,000 each. Now, Z52's AP, unlike the US AP, is actually double the damage, so if you encounter one, keep those broadsides to yourself. Now, Kleber, another interesting exception. Without the main battery reload boost, close to Z52 and Shimakaze. Pop the main battery reload boost, bam, over a 20-second period, the ship transforms into a Marceau-like monster. Moving on to fire chance. The higher tier US destroyer shells, they have a 7% fire chance. So the cumulative ability to start a fire is directly tied to the rate of fire, meaning the amount of shells that you can pump at the target. As a result, Gearing tops the chart for US destroyers, 600% fire chance over a 60-second period, followed by Fletcher, Black, Benson, Kidd, and Mayhem, and then they all have 455% chance, and that's because their base HE DPM is the same, so they are able to basically hurl the same amount of shells at the target. As a result, they all have the same fire chance. Now, if we look at the other nations' tier 10 destroyers, Gearing's fire chance becomes minuscule. Only 3 destroyers have a worse fire chance than Gearing. These are Shimakaze, Yu Yang, and Summers. Shima right behind, around 568, Yu Yang 450, Summers 400. On the other hand, Smoland tops the chart at 1,129% fire chance, and 2 others, Daring and Harugumo, both top 1,000. Then you have Holland and Marceau, just under 1,000 at 960. And the rest somewhere in between of 630 and 810. So while Gearing can start fires, it most certainly is not a fire starting monster by any means. Survivability. Out of the box, Gearing has 19,400 hit points. The max health, 22,900 with Survivability Expert. If you have Alexander Ovechkin, you can get an additional 500 points, given his unique survivability perk. But taking that away, what you have is 22,900, and that makes Gearing is second in terms of health in the US3 behind Kid, which has almost 29,000 on the back of heal consumables. And then you also have Summers, Fletcher, and Black, which follow Gearing at close to 21,000 and then 20,000. In comparison with other tier 10 destroyers, peers, Gearing, staying true to the US branch, has the 4th lowest HP pool out of 14 tier 10 destroyers. So basically ranks 10th out of 14. Holland, Smoland, they top the chart at 33,500. Yeah, somewhere in between. 33,452. And they're closely followed by Groz and Daring at 33,000 and 30,000. These destroyers' capacity to heal their damage makes them very tough to beat, especially in prolonged fights. But even others with high gun damage output are very troubling, so it may be helpful to think of Gearing as somewhat of a glass cannon. Moreover, 8 tier 9 destroyers and even 6 tier 8 destroyers have larger health pools than Gearing. However, I think what's even more important is how well does that health pool balance with the ship's firepower. So to have a better sense of that, I decided to take a look at 1v1 fights and how long would it take each ship to destroy each other. And what I found was that despite the low health pool, Gearing does pretty well in this scenario. So before I go over the results, let me just talk a little about the number of elements and assumptions I made to come up with them. So the first, firepower. Here, I assume every ship has equipped main battery mode 3 as well as basic firing training. In case of French destroyers, main battery reload booster is active. The ships only use HE. Engagement occurs at 6 kilometers, and I'm using the pro ship sourced accuracy of 68.94%. So 100 shells, almost 69 shells hit the target, and each HE shell deals 33% of its damage. So then I looked into health pools. I added a survivability expert skill to each ship, assumed that in any engagement, the ship which has a heal will get to use one of those heals. And lastly, all engagements last until both ships are destroyed. The analysis overstates the damage as the DPM calculation does not account for individual salvos, but it's linked to time. So if, for example, if each ship fires every 10 seconds, I assumed half the firepower is available at a 5-second interval, which doesn't work that way. Also, in case of French destroyers, the main battery reload is applied for 15 seconds and accounted for over a 20-second time period. So 15 seconds of reload booster, 5 seconds, regular rate of fire. However, any engagement with a French destroyer that's longer than 20 seconds will tend to overstate the amount of damage that a French destroyer would do, as a low rate of firepower would be present for a longer period of time. So in this case, if it's a 30-second engagement, it would think that basically it's half of the 20-second engagement where the reload booster is present 75% of the time. So a little overstated. The engagements don't necessarily go that long in case of a French destroyer, but still something to keep in mind. So when I look at these 1v1 fights on that basis, 6 out of 14 tier 10 destroyers can outgun a gearing. So 6 out of 14, gearing wins 8 or 7, I guess, fights and loses 6. So the ships are highlighted in light blue color, have red numbers. You can see them on the screen. For example, it would take Smoland 19.4 seconds to destroy a gearing. However, gearing would need 24.6 seconds to destroy a Smoland. And what you have is a negative, I guess, to gearing, 5.2 second time difference. Meaning gearing would be destroyed, but in order to destroy Smoland, it would need to continue firing for another 5.2 seconds. So let's take a look at another example. For example, Shima. Shima would take 35.2 seconds to destroy a gearing. However, gearing would only need 20.7 seconds to destroy Shima. So here you have a 14.5 second time difference for gearing, meaning Shima is dead and we still need to continue shooting for another 14.5 seconds to do anything to destroy the gearing. So the 6 ships that can outgun a gearing are Harugumo, Marceau, Smoland, Kleber, Daring, and Holland. So I did the same analysis for tier 9 and tier 8 destroyers because some of these destroyers have a larger health pool. So I thought, okay, well, let's take a look how gearing compares against these destroyers as well. And looking at the results, no tier 9 destroyer can outgun gearing using this scenario. 3 come very close: Friesland, Kitakaze, and Mogador. But gearing still has an edge. And then I said, okay, well, I did it for tier 9. There are also tier 8 destroyers, larger health pool. Let's take a look at those two. So here, same story as with tier 9 destroyers. No tier 8 destroyer can outgun gearing. 2, Akizuki and Le Terrible, are kind of close, but not tier 9 close. So as a result, gearing is finely balanced between her firepower and health pool. Of course, one thing to note is, well, not one, I think there are a few things, but it's important to keep in mind, this is done in lab-like condition with the air quotes around it, right? It doesn't account for a myriad of real game factors that can be decisive. I mean, player skill, first and foremost. Great influence on the outcome. Better player will aim better, dodge better, take advantage of the terrain, friendly support fire, etc. However, what I wanted to do here is give a sense of how gearing stacks up against other ships, and I thought this was an interesting way to do that. I just closed on this section with a small point on gearing's armor. So all of tier 10, 9, and 8 destroyers have the same armor protection scheme. 19mm for the hull, 13mm for the superstructure. That's all except for 2, Gearing and Khabarovsk. Gearing has a 21mm piece in the middle of her hull, which means that British and Pan-European destroyers will not be able to pen it with their HE. So that kind of raises an interesting play when you encounter these destroyers. Typically you want to reduce the angle, make yourself smaller, not allow them to use AP, right? But here you could be almost tempted to maybe increase that angle a little bit, have them continue to use their HE, because every time they hit that middle section, they may get an on-pen, which may work out to the gearing's advantage. So these destroyers, right, the English and Pan-European. So in tier 10, they're Daring, Holland, Smoland. In tier 9, you got Jutland, Ostergotland, Friesland. And then in tier 8, you got Åland, Orkan, Lightning, and Cossack. So something to keep in mind. And with that, we come to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I know it's a lot of numbers, and I'm still working my way through in how best to present them in a concise and clear manner. So that will be a challenge. But this will be part 1. I think there will be a part 2 because there's still a lot more numbers to cover. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you think would be interesting to see, and hope to see you all soon again. Take care. Mara out.